They say programming teaches you how to think, and it actually gives you the ability to build anything you want in the digital world just by yourself. And also, programming is a very highly paid job, and actually is also a highly paid job. And did I mention that is a very highly paid job? Oh yeah, programming is a very highly paid job. So, how hard could it be to actually learn programming? Well, famous last words, I know, but let's find out together. So, at first, I thought programming was just typing a bunch of code and boom, program done. No, turns out, before I could learn programming, I had to learn how to learn. And after watching about 1,000 YouTube tutorials, here is what I discovered. If you watch 1,000 videos on how to swim, you will never learn how to swim. But if you threw yourself into the middle of the sea without knowing how to swim, you drown. So, how do you actually learn to swim? You drown. So you try not to die while figuring out, and that's how you basically learn swimming. And that's exactly what I'm gonna do with programming. I'm throwing myself into the middle of it by starting a project. And after scrolling through like another 1,000 project ideas, I realized I'll only stick to something if I actually want to build it. So I said to myself, hey, I need a Notion alternative. Why not build my own? What could possibly go wrong? Yeah, another set of famous last words. So I asked ChatGPT how to build a Notion alternative. It told me I'd need something called Electron. I said, cool, what the hell is Electron? And it said, oh, it's a framework that lets you build desktop apps using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Then it also said I'd need something called Node.js for something that is also called the backend. Backend of what? I have no idea, but I installed them anyways. So now, with all this, whatever's sold, it's time to set up my environment and actually start the project. Alright, time to set up my environment, right? And of course, instead of reading documents like a reasonable adult, I'm going straight to ChatGPT. Why? Because who actually read docs anyway? Exactly, nobody. So, as we can see, ChatGPT told me just type these commands and boom, your Electron app is ready. Easy, right? And actually, every time I type something at the terminal, I feel like I'm about to hack NASA or something, or even blow my freaking laptop. But somehow it actually worked. So now I officially have an Electron project set up. Look at me, a real programmer. Somebody hired me already. And then after I copied some terminal stuff in order to create the Electron app, I needed to create something called main.js and paste some JavaScript code in it. Of course, it's a JavaScript code that ChatGPT told me that is necessary for something that's called the app lifecycle. So what I understood so far about that this basically tells the app that when I run it, it just opens a window, and when I say close, it just closes. So that's basically the what this main.js does for now. So after all this, it's time to actually create the HTML and CSS for this app, which is basically the HTML is the code that tells the browser what kind of elements is in this app. So yeah, that's what I learned so far about this Electron stuff. So now it's time to write the HTML code. Of course, I got the basic stuff from ChatGPT, and then I continued myself because I learned some HTML. So yeah, I continued with this and created some code, and boom, a very extremely crappy looking app. Why? Because I suck at CSS and I suck at everything. But after a lot of debugging, until I realized that I was typing the classes all wrong in my CSS file. That's why everything was screwed up. But after that, debugging that, and after refixing everything in the HTML and CSS code, I reached this. In the HTML code, there is the body that has the main div, which is the layout. So this layout contains three main divs. A side left, which is basically the left sidebar, which contains a header saying structure and an unordered list saying first node, second node, third node, fourth node, and fifth node. That's the left sidebar. And there's the main section. And this main section contains another div that named is doc. So this doc has an unordered list, which is I1, I2, I3, which stands for icon 1, icon 2, icon 3, because this doc is supposed to have icons that let me navigate through my app sections. And then the main stuff in the main div is a header saying welcome to A7R SP, which stands for second praying, and a paragraph which is content editable, which is basically gonna be the text of the notes. So this is where I will put the notes in. And finally, there is this right sidebar, which contains a header saying the tools and an unordered list saying first, second, third, fourth, fifth tool. That's basically the HTML of the app. CSS is also very simple. Just a background color, a margin, a font family, and a display flex. This is basically the main thing that makes the app very arranged and good looking. And yeah, that's basically everything: colors, margins, and paddings. That's very basic stuff. And here is the final result of my HTML and CSS programming. Boo. How do you like that, baby? To be honest, I think it really looks very, very cool and very, very good. Yeah, that's what she said. Anyways, this app is, oh my god. For this basic design, I'm really proud of it and it looks very, very cool. But that's it for today, because I figured that this video is taking really, really long and my internet isn't strong enough to upload such a big video, so I gotta make it into parts, okay? And I couldn't let you wait, guys. I know you are dying to watch me every week, so yeah, I know that. So yeah, that was the HTML and CSS for this app, which is still very, very basic. We didn't even do anything like at all. But as the most beginner programmer ever, that's a very good stuff for me. So next, in the next video, we will start putting some JavaScript in this app and start having buttons and stuff that does some stuff. So yeah, it's gonna be exciting. And in the third, there's also a third part and maybe even a fourth part. So yeah, see you in these videos if I ever made them, and to be continued.